All right, well, 7 Pakistani soldiers were killed and 13 others injured in a coordinated suicide attack on a military camp in North Waziristan's Mir Ali district. According to Pakistani officials, a terrorist drove an explosives-laden vehicle into the boundary wall of the Khaddi military camp in Mir Ali, while 2 others attempted to storm the facility but were shot dead. The Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan has claimed responsibility, saying it's Khalid bin Walid suicide unit and the Tehrik-Taliban Gul Bahadur carried out these attacks. The attacks come amidst escalating tensions between Pakistan and Afghanistan following a Pakistani airstrike on Kabul last week. Reportedly, Pakistan's airstrike was meant to target TTP chief Noor Wali Mahsood. Islamabad accused Taliban of sheltering Mahsood, whose group is now responsible for near-deadly attacks inside Pakistan's borders. Well, we'll get to talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the program at this point in time is Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar, Senior Defence Expert. Major General Sudhakar Ji, Senior Geopolitical and Strategic Defence Expert, with us on the program as well. Mr. Amjad Ayub Mirza, POK activist, is also joining us. Ambassador Mahesh Sajdev, former diplomat, also joins us on the program to talk more about this. All right. General Kochar, let's talk about what's going on over here. It's good that there is possibility of a meeting between Afghanistan and Pakistan to resolve this issue amicably. But do you really think that there is anything amicable between Pakistan and Afghanistan since the time of Pakistan has gained independence? Would you also hold, the Durand line and the insensitivity with which it was carved out that has led to this prevalent conflict for decades now? The Pashtunistan community felt that the British divided or made the Durand line without figuring out what ancestral lands and tribal and cultural unity was all about. And that is the reason that a large part of Pakistan still holds dear a land which is very, very important to the Afghans. And until that is resolved, this issue may never see the light of day.
Thank you, Vineet. It's a very good question and opening narrative, because the first point is, I don't think this ceasefire is going to hold as it is. The ceasefire got over at 6 p.m. today, and I don't think it is likely to get extended. And even if it gets extended, it's going to be fragile, because we have to understand that unless the core issues are discussed and sorted out, this peace is not going to hold. And you have touched, Pakistan, I would say, has touched a raw nerve in Afghanistan. You cannot have the impunity to strike the Afghanis in their own capital. You have crossed that red line, I would say that. And Pakistan has crossed the red line, and that is why this retaliation is of such a magnitude, which I think is unprecedented, because since 2021, I don't think there has been such a ferocious response from Afghanistan as we are seeing now. Second, Pakistan should not take Afghanistan lightly, because $7 billion worth of weapons were left by the Americans after they have left. And they have a sizable amount of anti-tank resources, machine guns, armored vehicles, Humvees, etc., to fight a guerrilla type of a warfare with Pakistan, because a conventional warfare, Pakistan can't fight here, and Pakistan knows it. Because Pakistan may have a strong army, strong Air Force, everything, but it cannot match the guerrilla warfare of Afghanistan. And one more important aspect one has to keep in mind is, when you are fighting Afghanis, when you are fighting the Pashtuns, they are highly motivated force. A Pakistan army is not a motivated force, and we have seen this happening, because the Pakistan 11 and 12 Corps is in this region. And if you look at the composition of the brigades and the battalions, they are people from Punjab regiment, Baluch regiment, different type of regiments, who have no ethnicity involved here, and they don't have that motivation to fight the Pashtuns. And one important aspect is, they lack intelligence, because the people here who are residing here are also Pashtuns. And Pakistan is forgetting that they are targeting their own population. So, a moment you have this sentiments of hitting at your own population, you will see this is going to snowball. Today we are talking about Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan. Now there will be only one Taliban. There won't be any discrimination between the two, because so far Taliban is saying that we are not harboring them in our own area, which may not be the fact. But in times to come, if this is going to escalate, and my last point is about the Durand line you mentioned, because it's a very important aspect of this discussion, because two ethnicities, same ethnicities, cannot be divided by a line.
Correct.
And they have to understand the Britishers made the worst mistake by creating this concept of the Durand line, and the Pakistanis have gone a step ahead by fencing almost 90% of the Durand line. But the Pashtuns from the other side, Talibans, and the Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, they have no problem. They can cut across these fences and move inside. So, and look at the outposts which Pakistan Army has got, 2 kilometers apart from each other. It are not been able to fire upon each other, or is to reinforce each other's localities, as we call it in our own complete defended localities. They will not be able to reinforce each other, so there are large gaps here. And the Taliban or Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan is exploiting these gaps, and these border checkposts, there are 18 of them, and 2 are the major ones, Chaman and Khurram, and the entire livelihood or the supply line between Pakistan and Afghanistan is actually going through this checkpost. Okay. It has been affected, and my last point here is, you have to understand there are 12 lakh refugees of Taliban in Pakistan, and they have a potential to create an internal situation in Pakistan, because in case of a war like this, those 12 lakh people can also be part of Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan and create a situation within Pakistan which possibly Pakistan will not be able to handle.
All right, you're quite right about that. And a footnote to what you have summed up, sir, it's perhaps most of the wars that are on at this point in time, barring the Russia-Ukraine war, have somehow been the legacy of several generals in the ISI and the army to help the Afghans to fight the Russians. And that was a time when Pakistan and Afghanistan were extremely close. They were not feuding over the Durand line. Why does it come up sporadically?
Yeah, good evening, Vinit. Thank you for getting me for your show. Allow me to tackle the last part of your question first. Because we are in 21st century, we are discussing the issue in 2025. And there is a distinction between what happened way back in 79 and 80s and what is happening now. What happened in 79, 80s was a kind of a redemption the USA was looking for in order to respond to the humiliation that forces suffered in Vietnam. They had virtually been kicked out by the Vietnamese, and that was the golden opportunity which Pakistan saw and offered the services to assist USA forces along with the Mujahidins and throw out the Russians from Afghanistan. That's why the Afghanistan is very popularly called as it's a graveyard of empire. Nobody, neither the English, the Anglo-Afghan War 1839 to 42, 1878 to 80, nor the 1919, none of the conflicts has the English people have won this thing, although there was a very, very insignificant partial kind of a streak of success in the second one, followed by the Russians were thrown out, followed by the Americans. They had a hasty withdrawal from Afghanistan. But having said that, the dynamics have actually changed. What are the dynamics? The Mujahidins that we talk of, finally, they assumed the shape and contours of Al-Qaeda, and the Al-Qaeda led to a kind of a Taliban. Taliban came into existence because their own people in Pakistan itself, when USA post 9/11 took place, when USA and the Western Alliance, they came into the Middle East, they got deployed in Afghanistan and surrounding areas. They're the ones who compelled Pakistan to fight against the Taliban who were migrating from Afghanistan along with Al-Qaeda along in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa area. That is how the momentum and the spirit of Taliban actually took a lot of oxygen and they built up their confidence, and then the fighting started. Actual genesis of Taliban fighting was in 2007 when Musharraf was the president and Lal Chowk was under attack. That was no turning point for Taliban. That is how they have actually assumed a kind of out of proportion strength and size and determination to fight back the Pakistanis in form of demanding the abdication of Durand Line, number one. Number two, Sharia law to be there, spread all over Pakistan, and especially in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to start with. And third and most important thing is that they will have their own administrative parallel government to be functional. These are the couple of major issues. But what General Kocher has given out is very, very important. We need to understand the dynamics of the Durand Line. Durand Line was actually signed in 1893 for 100 years. Its relevance and sanctity actually got dissolved or disappeared in 1993. Thereafter, it is irrelevant. One. Number two, it's over a distance of 2,640 kilometers. This consists of 1,200 border posts. They supplement 1,000 military forts. Every fort has got 10 to 20 people. Intercept distance, like General Kocher he gave out, is around 1,000 to 2,000 meters. That also they are able to give mutual support. Third and most important thing is that the Pakistan army is totally deployed in a linear manner. Fourth, at one point in time, they had 235 crossing points. They were reduced after the fencing came up, 90% they say. My input says it's almost 97 to 99%. It was reduced to 16 checkposts, and from 16 it has come to the global gateways of Chaman and Torkham. These are the two places Pakistan uses, closes them and opens them to leverage these two openings, and because of which Afghanistan is actually very, very agitated. Now, why is Afghanistan carrying out an attack which is so relentless? There are 4-5 reasons. One is Afghanistan is no longer to be taken as a vassal state. It's not going to be taken as a junior partner. Number two, its foreign policy has to be independent. It doesn't like to be dictated. Earlier it was looking at the immediate neighborhood. Now it has been accepted by Russia. China has given a clear acceptance. The ambassador of Afghanistan is already in China. They have reached out to India. India has already announced the diplomatic connections to be established with Afghanistan. Similarly, as on today, there are 8 countries which have got embassies, and there are 10 more who are in the waiting. Under these circumstances, Afghanistan wants to restore the status of stability, of progressive society, despite the Sharia law being in vogue. And last but not the least is that the elephant in the room is the ISIS Khorasan. ISIS Khorasan is the primary enemy of Taliban Afghanistan. They do not want, and who's giving shelter and sanctuary? The shelter and sanctuary has been provided by Pakistan Army in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. This Taliban doesn't want them to come across. They have been infiltrating. They have been carrying out attacks in Gurdwara and different places of importance in Afghanistan. This they don't want. And along with this particular point, there are small groups, Lashkar-e-Taiba, this particular ISIS Khorasan, they have formed groups to go into Afghanistan.
Let me bring in Mr. Amjad Ayub Mirza as well, and I more or less agree with what you have said, but not with what you said about let's look at Afghanistan and Pakistan from this era's context. It's always important, especially for experts, to not undermine the history between two countries, because that helps you navigate how they're going to behave in the future. Mr. Mirza, I'm going to go back into history again once more, because I know what happened. Afghanistan was the only country in 1947 which opposed Pakistan from becoming the member of the United Nations. And at that time also they had flagged the fact that their unity, their tribal culture has been destroyed because of the Durand Line. And once again, I'm going to invoke this question that they have gotten along in phases in the past as well. Do you think now, with the infusion of Indian diplomacy and India's trade offer and India's contribution towards Afghanistan's economy, the entire game plan has changed?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. You see, what happened in 1947 is that India was partitioned in August 1947. But in July 1947, before the partition, a referendum, so-called referendum, was held in the northwestern frontier province. And the Congress party very conveniently, and I have my suspicions, but they boycotted it. They had it was a Congress government in northwestern frontier province, and they boycotted the referendum, and only Muslim League took part in the referendum. About quarter of a million votes were casted in favor of Pakistan, and 2,800 something like that were casted in favor of independent Pashtunistan. Now, this was a time when Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan mentioned that Nehru has left us to the dogs, and the tribal belt didn't vote. Lord Cunningham, who was the governor of northwestern frontier province, claimed that he has got the thumb impressions of many tribal leaders who have agreed to accession to Pakistan. So the problem starts right from the beginning, when even before that, when this northwestern frontier province was cut off from the rest of the India and made into a province, so that the independent movement that was going on in India cannot influence Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and then from Afghanistan that influence mingles with the Soviet influence. So it was always kept under the full control of the British, and the British very conveniently then passed this part of the world to Pakistan. So, as General Sudhakar very rightly mentioned, that it was a 100-year agreement, and that agreement expired in 1993. So there is no boundary commission between India and Pakistan. It's a porous border. People come and go at will. And now what is happening is with this war between Afghanistan and Pakistan, my reading is that it's not going to end, it's not going to stop. The ceasefire is just, I think, mediated by Qatar. There will be some kind of negotiations. I don't think Pakistan is going to agree to stop fencing the border, and the Taliban are not going to accept that the TTP is operating from inside Afghanistan, and BLA and etc. So these negotiations are going to stall. That is my reading. The second thing is that Pakistan has started to vent its anger out on Afghan refugees. Now in Karachi, they have sent police in, and they are beating the Afghans up, arresting them, taking them God knows where. In Sindh, the Sindhis have started to occupy the properties of Afghans, and same thing is happening in Balochistan. They are they are marking the Afghan houses and businesses. They are putting marks on them so that they can be identified. And it is, if you look at the footage, it shows you that it is worse than Hitler did to the Jews. I mean, you can put two movies together and you can watch. how they are using the Afghans as scapegoats. The important thing I think now is that Afghanistan has just tested a 400-kilometer range missile. So if Pakistan, misbehaves, then I think Kabul is going to use those missiles. Secondly, the Russians now have sent a lot of spare parts to Afghanistan because of the Russian tanks, and some companies have also visited Afghanistan, and they have sold.
Right. So we have a paucity of time. I quickly want to get into General Kochar into this last leg as well. General Kochar, in fact, Defence Minister Khwaja Asif of Pakistan has gone on to say very bluntly and clearly that New Delhi is financing this war against Pakistan through the TTP.
Vineet, I think this is a very old kind of rhetoric which Pakistan always plays. We have seen it happening in Balochistan also. With, when the
well, he said it again yesterday at a press conference, and to international reporters as well.
You see, this has been the way Pakistan functions, or the Pakistan government, including their military actually functions, because everything is blamed on India in case of terrorist attacks which are taking place in Pakistan. They say that RAW is involved in all these attacks, and you look at the Dawn newspaper, which I read sometimes. There is a fair mention of Indian interference in all the Pakistani this sort of disturbances. So I don't think there is any definite evidence to that, and nor India is interested to do that, because this is to tell the people of Pakistan of this magnitude of the problem, because it is the morale of the Pakistan army which is getting affected, and General Munir is worried because he has been put on a pedestal, or he himself has put himself on a pedestal, and he has made him as a field marshal in spite of losing in Operation Sindoor. They have not disclosed the facts of the operation to their own population.
Correct.
So it is very evident.
And even with Afghanistan, they have not been extremely transparent. In fact, they've been the opposite, playing down the losses that they have suffered for their security personnel as well as civilians. We have run out of time. Appreciate all of you who joined in and gave us your perspective on this important issue. We take a short break. Be right back.